In a world without the protections of Roe versus Wade, particularly right here in America, conservatives across our country are testing how far they can expand their control over women's bodies. Republican state legislatures have really just fallen all over each other to implement their own punitive abortion bans. And if you listen to what they are saying out loud, many are not stopping there. In Michigan, for example, Republican candidate for Attorney General Matt DePerno, he's outright said that he wants to ban Plan B, the emergency morning after contraceptive pill. It is frightening to consider what links and what tools others will use to crack down. And that's why stories like this are so concerning. In Florida, some high school athletes are now required to submit information on their menstrual cycles online. For 2 decades, Florida students who want to participate in a high school sport must fill out with their doctors this physical evaluation form. You see it on the screen. For female students, there are these optional questions asking about their menstrual cycles. Now some alarm bells are going off because some schools are moving to digitize these form submissions through a third party. The move essentially creates a digital collection of the high school students' medical information. In a post-Roe world, folks are wary about what kind of information is going to, and where is it going, and who's going to be able to access it, and if it could be used against them. So joining me now is Symone San-Felice. She is one of our favorite reporters from the Tampa Bay area for Axios Tampa Bay. All right. From your reporting, what are parents at these schools saying about this move to digitize this information?
Yeah, so it's not just parents who are concerned about whether the information could be utilized in a sense, in the post-Roe world sense of tracking their child's menstrual data or, period data, but it's also parents who in the Florida's very pro-parental rights movement who are saying, well, I want to have control over this information, and this website and this collection of this doesn't give me that control because not only can it be subpoenaed, but it's being collected by a site that is not a medical company and therefore is not subject to being HIPAA compliant. So, this is raising alarms for a lot of people.
So, Symone, in years prior, these forms were collected, but they were collected on paper. And then after a number of years, it's my understanding that they would be shredded. So do we know how long this data would live with this third party?
We do not. The information is still pretty new right now, but this company is also still pretty new. Activate, the website that this information is being stored on in Broward, Sarasota, and Palm Beach, and in another form in Hillsborough County, is only a year old. So it looks like this was a decision that somebody signed off on. But if you read the room with Roe, the trans sports ban, and what's going on with student information right now, it's something that definitely needs a lot more talking about.
So the questions about menstrual cycles, though, were optional on the form. So are there any penalties if a student or their family refuses to check the box, refuses to fill it out?
Not that I know of, but what is a problem in places, not in Hillsborough County, because they are not storing the specific medical data, they're only storing coaching data on that site. But in other counties like Sarasota, Broward, and definitely in Palm, you have the issue of a coach just being able to log online and see what students are getting periods or not getting periods or the frequency of those periods. And collecting period data can be useful for athletes in specific senses, but it also does raise alarms when it comes to seeing, which students might be trans or which students, may have had changes in their menstruation when it comes to the abortion ban. So it's not so much a change in what's actually happened. It's the same form, but the access to that form and who will be able to see it and get to it is the problem.
This feels like a pervasive invasion of privacy. Symone San-Felice, thank you so much for just making it plain. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to bring in someone who is trying to fight this invasion of privacy. Please welcome Democratic Congresswoman out of California, Sara Jacobs. Congresswoman, I have to say, I love the blazer. Okay, you heard what is happening in Florida. I am quite concerned. What is your reaction to all of this?
I'm very concerned. It's incredibly invasive to be asking these high school students about their period information. That is something maybe their doctor should know about, but certainly not their athletic coach. And especially in a state like Florida, where we see the abortion ban, where we see the ban on trans student athletes and the attacks on trans students, it makes me very, very concerned about what this data can be used for, how it can be used, and who can access it. And, Symone, I'm very comfortable talking about my period. I talked about it on the House floor, but even when I was in high school, was pretty embarrassed and it was anxiety inducing to have to talk about it. So the idea that we are forcing these kids to have to talk about their period with their athletic coach, to me is pretty appalling.
Yeah, an athletic coach that probably is not a woman. And so you're also putting these young people in a situation where they are divulging very personal information to an adult, potentially a man that they are not necessarily comfortable with. I find this absolutely insane. You want to do something about things like this. We talked back in July about the reproductive health and privacy, and you told me that it was your job as a government to make sure that you're putting in place protections for this very sensitive and personal data. And that's why you introduced the My Body, My Data Act. How does this act protect women, and these young girls down there in Florida?
Yeah. So what this bill does is it says that there's a single national standard that any company, an app company, a website company, any company cannot collect or retain information except what is strictly needed to provide their service. They can't sell it. They can't share it with anyone without your express written consent. And you have the right to ask for it to be deleted at any time. And this is really important because we've seen this data already starting to be used against people in states that are criminalizing abortion. We saw Facebook messages being used to prosecute a woman in Nebraska who got an abortion and her mother.
Yes.
And so we know that this data can be used, and right now there are no protections to it, and it shouldn't be on each individual person or each high school student or their parent to figure out how to keep their data safe. It's our job as a government to set those protections.
I'm so glad that you brought up the story out of Nebraska, my home state, because when Facebook turned over these private chats of this mother and her daughter to police, Facebook says that it was served a warrant as part of an investigation into an abortion. And so that's why they had to comply. And the mother and the daughter have both been charged. So how will your bill keep what happened, can protect folks from what happened in Nebraska? Will it bar technology companies from having to comply with subpoenas? Will it prohibit police departments from being able to issue subpoenas for that kind of data in the first place?
So what this bill does is it works on the data piece itself. So the analogy I like to use is like a bathtub. So we are somewhat controlling who can open the bathroom door and see the bathtub because they can't sell it and they can only share it with your express written consent. But the most important thing this bill does is it actually drains the bathtub. So even if there was a subpoena, even if someone opened the bathroom door, there wouldn't be as much data in the bathtub for them to see. And so basically, this is about the data minimization piece, but we're also working on other bills around the law enforcement piece, around, frankly, the fact that all of our privacy laws are not really well suited for this post-Roe era, and we need to update all of them to make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect people in this moment.
This is about women's reproductive autonomy. It's also about privacy. It's about so many of our rights that many people thought we're not going anywhere anytime soon. Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, thank you very much. We will have you back. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.